Welcome back to the Crypto Factor. Welcome back to your favorite cryptopreneurship channel, and welcome to Gareth Soloway. Today we have a special show. I've got a surprise for you, Gareth. Gareth, first of all, how are you, man? Welcome back.
I'm doing really well. Thank you. Thanks for having me back. It's always a pleasure.
So I keep on seeing you other people's interviews, and you have all these screens. And now lately, when you come on mine, I don't see no screens. I see a flower, but I don't see any screens. What's up with that?
Well, it's Bitcoin's ripping today, so no need to be even looking at the screens. Just enjoy the ride.
Yes. And I have a special surprise for you today. I'm going to make a bold claim, and you're going to laugh, and people are going to laugh, and they're going to make fun of me, but I'm going to make it anyway, and I'm willing to make a bet with you live today, and we'll talk about it a little bit. Nothing major, just something that will it'll be some fun. But let's start with the Bitcoin chart. Then I'll tell you about what I'm seeing, and then you can tell me it's complete crap or not, what my views are. Then we'll make the bet, and then we'll go to the rest of the crypto charts, the gold, stocks, and all that beautiful good stuff.
Sounds good.
Okay. So let's go have a look at Bitcoin. What are you seeing, Gareth? What are you seeing in the charts?
So basically, beautiful breakout here on Bitcoin. You can see this level here, which is 21.8, which was the level that it basically was hammering against, going all the way really back to when it broke down and made the lowest point back in June, right? So we got the close yesterday. We were getting continuation, which looks like it's confirming the move. And it looks to me like we'll head up to this 25.5 level. That's the pivot low from the Terra Luna collapse over here. To me, that's the big level next, at least the next target. I do think there's a chance we go through that, maybe all the way as high as about 28.5. But again, for me at least, I'm in the position of where, whether it's 25.5 or 28.5, I'm not thinking that we get through that high level. And I think there still is some more downside. Now, I am still currently long Bitcoin. I did take some profits today. FTT, I pulled my profits there. Avalanche, I took some profits there, but I still have some Ethereum long. I still have some Bitcoin long. I still have some Cardano, Polkadot, Chainlink. So I still have some exposure as we ride this wave. But again, it's not a long-term play for me. This is a shorter-term play up into these resistance levels. Once we get there, I'll be looking to take profits and basically rinse and repeat. And that's what I've done for so long. It's worked out very well.
Nice. So I agree with everything you just said, but I'm going to make a bold claim here, okay? You ready? Get ready to laugh, okay? You, unless you're Rastani, everyone's going to laugh at this. But here's what my views are. My view is that the bottom is in at 17.5K that we reached. Now, that is what I can anticipate happening. Now, if we do break that level, if we break to the downside, I don't see it going to 12K or 10K. I just don't. I'm seeing 15, 16K. I'll tell you why, and I'll justify my position after, and then you can tell me what you think, okay? Now, but I'm looking at the same level as you are. I would say 26 to 28K. Obviously, I'm not as good as technical analyst as you are. And obviously, what I'm saying right now, the actual play, Gareth, can be wrong. You could be right. First of all, I want to make you a bet that the bottom is in. Okay. And I want to make you a bet that we don't get down to 12K. I want to make a $100 bet, which is not a lot of money. It's $100, but it's fun because it is bragging rights and there's a video about it. And it has to be a meal. So whoever wins has to make a video of him eating the meal, telling the other guy he's a loser. Not a loser, but you know what I mean. It'll be funny. Okay.
Now we also got to discuss the time frame. So we do. Yeah. So like I would say we don't break the lows in the next 12 months, and then that basically you do it like that or something.
Right. We'll do that. But let me finish my my look. So I'm looking at the bottom at 17.5K. If we break that, I'm looking at 15.6, 16,000. That for me is probably my worst case scenario. Can we get lower than that? Of course, but that's my bet. There's no bet if you don't put a level, then there's no reason to make a bet. Otherwise, it'll be the same as yours. Now, I also think we're going to get up to the 26, 28K, and I do think we're going to reject from there. But if we reject from there and go back to the 25K, 24K, I think we're going to make a run and maybe close above that. And if we close above 33K, I think that's a bull run. And if we confirm it, I'll justify this in a second. Now, I think that the bottom of the bull run will be in by the end of this summer, if not by the end of this year. So that's my time frame. Price will reflect in hindsight that was the bottom when we get a big difference in price, maybe at the end of the year, maybe beginning 2023. This, by the way, has not been, I haven't had a different view about this. This is what I called 20K with a wick to the 18K level. And maybe even 17. I think we even said it here on one of our shows months ago, by the way. So that's why I'm just looking at it. Now, what's the play here, though? Because a lot of people are going to start following in. I don't want them to do that because I'm probably wrong about this. Okay. Even if I'm wrong, by the way, Gareth has got the correct play here. I admit that right now because I understand TA. But here's my theory, Gareth. Gareth, I don't think we're going to get that because everybody's waiting for us to get to 14 to 12K. And everybody's waiting that markets don't do what you want to do, so it usually overshoots to the downside, so they're looking at 10 or 8. Well, what if it surprises everybody and doesn't get down to that level, goes to the 15K level, then goes up? Wouldn't that really wreck a lot of people, both shorts and long? That's number one I'm looking at. Number two, contrarian, right? Number two, we never got up to 100K. I was looking at 86K, we got up to 70K. Okay? What if we don't go as low? Now, the only thing is the macros. Everything is going on with the world right now. Okay? That's the only thing that makes this theory a bit skeptical. But again, by the end of the summer, we'll have some sort of black swan event. Either the war's going to end, they're going to lower interest rates. I think they're going to have to lower interest rates. I'll tell you my theory about that if you want. That's what I'm looking at. So that is my claim. The bottom is in. Worst case scenario, 15K. $100 bet that we don't get down to 12K.
Okay, wait. So just for clarity, we should keep it simple. It's either the bottom's in or not, right? Is that the bet? Because I think we got to keep it simple.
There's a chance we wick down to the 15K level, 15.5K level.
Okay.
If we break the 17.5, obviously I have to give some leeway there. I have to. Just like you have the 14 to 12K. You either say 14 or 12.
Okay.
Or 10.
All right. Sounds good.
Time frame by the end of this year.
All right. Sounds good. Sounds good. I love little bets like that, man. I love them.
Fun. You have to eat the meal. You have to eat the meal in front of the camera, not live, obviously, but or you might make a small video saying, "Hey, I'm eating this meal from Paul because he lost the bet, the crypto factor, because he's a moron." Or I'll say I'll get lucky and got the bet with Gareth, and I'll eat that steak, man.
Okay, sounds good, buddy. Sounds
It'll
good.
be fun. It'll be fun.
All right. So yeah, I mean, I think that, you know, I definitely think there's always a chance that that's correct. I mean, we just never know for sure. My few things that bother me about the potential low being in is that we still haven't seen enough disruption in the overall crypto market. So, you know, you go to coins, they've all been discounted, some of them 95%, some of them 90%. Even Ethereum is down significantly, although the bounce has been just absolutely awesome on Ethereum. But to me, I look at that sector and I'm like, how can this many coins still exist? And if this is the bottom and now we're headed up, how does that work? How do we have so many coins in the system at that point? So for me, that's one of the issues. And also looking back and comparing it to the .com era, you know, you haven't seen that full capitulation. I mean, we did see fear when we were below the 2017 highs, but we didn't see that all out, like throw your hands up in the air, crypto's over kind of mentality, which is usually what notes the bottom. In fact, 2018, that was very similar to what we saw. We saw this kind of, you know, oh my goodness, Bitcoin, no more kind of thought. And then that was the bottom at 3,500. So that's an issue. And then my other issue would be is, even though I do think the Fed, like you said, is going to essentially stop hiking by later this year and probably even start easing in 2023. The question is, why are they doing that? And my guess is you're starting to see a real destructive event going on in the economy, right? And if you see the NASDAQ starting to really collapse down, and I don't think the NASDAQ's bottomed by any stretch, I think it's got to go down 40, 50% at minimum, then what you're saying is that you'll see a pivot in Bitcoin where it starts to strengthen when the NASDAQ and the stocks actually go down, which I actually agree. Eventually that happens. Yeah. I just don't know if this is the time frame where that happens. So I think that, you know, it's definitely a possibility. If there's one thing, you know, just like Game of Thrones, if there's one thing I know nothing, kind of, you know, nothing, Jon Snow, right? you have to respect the charts, that they're the ones that are always right, and you just don't know. But for me, I'd be amazingly surprised if all of a sudden it's the new bull run and here we go to the upside. Now, I will show this. I do have a level that I'm watching. If we take out this level and confirm, then I would tend to agree with you on that, right? So if you connect the high from 69,000 here to this high, notice how this line is right around 30,000 right now. It will slope down right into this 28,000 area, probably in about a month or so, right? Now, if we somehow get above that, then that is a breakout on the charts. That would get my attention. And I think that would be the one case where I would say, okay, now I actually kind of do believe that the bottom is in, and now we could go back to 69, 70, 80, 100,000 on Bitcoin. But until then, we're still in a pretty steep downtrend. And really, if you look at this move, even if we go up to 25, 26, or even 28, that's all an inside bar bearish pattern from this move down, or better yet, even from this move down. And the last thing I'll just mention is that I still have a measured move where you take this high here to this low here, right? And then you had this consolidation pattern, right? So we have this kind of sideways channel. And then if you take that same distance from here and you extend it out, you actually get right around 12,000. So this line is the same as this line, and that gives me that kind of bottom area. So again, anything can happen, and that's the beauty of investing and why it's so freaking fun.
Of course.
But for me, I'll take that opposing bet. I still think we're going to 12, 13,000. Unfortunately, I even think there's a chance we could go lower, but let's take one step at a time.
We could even to cause enough fear, we just need a huge 30% down candle on the weekly. It doesn't have to get, it can get to 17K double bottom and freak everyone out. And with everything else that's going on, it could also freak anyone else. Now, in theory, we've already capitulated, or at least a lot of people have capitulated. The only difference is the way it's being done. But anyway, again, I don't know. The odds are with you. If anybody's studying technical analysis, if anybody wants to trade, seriously, I'm just trying to be a contrarian to everyone here.
That's true. And that's the right way to be. That is absolutely contrarian viewpoints. I mean, one of the reasons why I was starting to talk up a bounce. So everyone knows I called for 20,000. We were at 69,000. One of the reasons, I mean, there were chart signals, but there was also just so much crazy bullishness that it was almost the easy way to go, which was just say, okay, well, if everyone's bullish, then it's not going to go that way. And same thing when we were below the 2017 highs of 19.5 or so, you know, everyone was just like doom and gloom. And it's like, okay, well, now we're due for a bounce. We're oversold. They've run the stops, which were at 19.5, which was a 2017 high. It made sense that we would see a bounce there. So the question is, as we rally, like when we see 26, 28, like you're saying, which I think we do see, do we then see everyone start to say the bottom's in, which then the contrarian view would be back to the downside?
Yeah, of course. You know? That's why we said we're going to go back down, though. I said we're going to go back down and see have another chance back up. Now, as for the cryptocurrencies that you said they're going to vanish, I don't think they're going to vanish. I think there's going to be more of them. In 2017, I don't know the 2000, that was the run, but in the crash, not everything vanished. They just never went up again.
Right.
Lisk still exists. Right?
But I guess what I'm saying is right now, what do you have, about 20,000 cryptos? I mean, you can't tell me that. I mean, in reality, that's even more stocks than there are in the whole entire stock market.
Yeah, but they're not all cryptos. Most of them are we have to make a justification of which cryptos we count and which ones we don't. Because it's a whole different market. It's not the stock market. It's not regulated as much. Not anybody. I can make a cryptocurrency tomorrow. I can't get it on the stock market, but I can put it on. But I can put it on.
But I think what I'm saying is that you still have people that are willing to take the risk by putting money in those. And I think that money has to be wiped out, you know. So I think that, you know, you may, you know, maybe the top 50 survive, maybe, you know, who knows, you know, and there will be new ones that have great use cases that come out, just like new companies come out all the time. But I want to see that period where anyone speculating on the 1,001th cryptocurrency by market cap, that needs to be wiped out. That can't be in the system anymore unless there's a real use case to it. And people will argue there is, right? Oh, this one is about cats, or this one's about dogs, or like, you know, and for me, I'm just like, really, you know, we're in the real world here where you actually need to have some sort of use case that's legitimate. Okay. So
No, I respect that. I disagree a little bit on that. I just think they don't need to go up again, and people need to sit there waiting for them to go up while everyone else is making money on Bitcoin and Ethereum, and that's how they get wrecked. But that's a whole different thing. But anyway,
Yeah.
let's see who's going to win. It's going to be exciting, Gareth. It's going to be exciting. To be honest, it's actually good either way for me because it's publicity.
Yeah, heck yeah. Hey, listen, me too, me too. I mean, listen, and listen, I'll be the first to admit I'm not always right? I mean, I've made plenty of bad calls in my career. I just happen to be right more than I'm wrong. I mean, that's just the essence of it. So, I mean, you just try to do
Right.
that and then you'll be fine in your investing career.
And you only need to be right, what, twice, 2 times out of 5 times, so you can make money when you're a trader?
I mean, for me, I need to be right more than that because I tend to lose more on my losers, you know? So like I bat about 80%, so 8 out of 10. But you'll notice that on my 2 losers out of every 10, I probably lose like 1.5 versus, you know, the one that I gain on a winner. So it knocks out about 3 total. And so I'm gaining about 7 out of every 10 with that.
So would you say you're a bit more conservative then?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, at this stage of my career, I've been smacked around and slapped around enough to not be too much of a cowboy anymore.
All right, awesome, man. All right, now let's get serious. Now let's have a look. We had a look at Bitcoin. We're going to be looking at let's get serious. I can't even speak. Going to be looking at cryptocurrencies in a second. I want to look at gold. I want you to tell me about gold because I'm interested.
Okay. Yeah, so gold has been really, really interesting to me. Somewhat of a surprise, right? So I've been on the gold bandwagon since basically we pulled back to this downsloping trend line around just below 1800. We find ourselves just above 1700. I didn't honestly think it would go below here. The dollar is partially to blame. The dollar has been so strong, so strong. But what's kind of bothered me in recent days, the dollar has pulled back and gold hasn't caught a bid. Now, on a technical basis, right? So we took out this line. Let me remove it. Basically, on a technical basis, what I'm now following is this line here. This is the epic line around 1680 or so, 1675. To me, that needs to hold. I will be very concerned if we break below it and start to trade below that line. As long as we hold that line, I think that for the most part, you still have this big move up, and then this is all that sideways chop inside of that move. So I think for me, that's the big thing I'm watching right now.
Why do you think gold's going down though? First of all, here's what worries me. The more you hit a certain support line or resistance line, the easier it's going to break. And it's hit like what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 with my bad eyesight so far.
Right.
Right? Correct? Am I right? 6
Correct.
times?
Yeah. I mean, right here is where it started, but then you hit here and here and here, and you're getting close to it over here. So yeah, I mean, it's hit multiple times, which does mean this is weaker. But one of the things in TA that's important to understand is that the longer you stay away from a line, the more it firms up. So I would expect another bounce. So if you look at how long it's been away from this line, from here to here, this line has firmed up a little bit. So it will still be support. But again, if it bounces and then hits it again, my guess is it does break at that point. So I'm really focusing on this next hit, if we get there, as being a really important one where we bounce and we need to start heading back up.
Now, why would gold be going down? Let's leave technical analysis to the side a second. Maybe we can speculate, or maybe you know something that I don't. Why is gold going down? Yes, I understand the dollar's going up.
Right.
But why would gold be going down right now?
Well, the only thing I can make sense of is that the market is looking at peak inflation. And I think that's probably the kicker, right? So we saw PPI numbers 11%. We saw CPI numbers like 9.1 or 9.2%. And people are saying, and this is why, by the way, the market has rallied as well, is that, okay, well, those are massively, ridiculously high inflation numbers, but we've seen copper collapse, nickel collapse, oil collapse, lumber collapse. So it's very apparent that inflation should be coming down now in the next few readings. And if inflation is coming down and people are saying, okay, well, the Fed's going to somehow magically get this inflation back in Pandora's box and get it to 2%, well, then you're right. Then the markets are going to rip and everyone wants risk on, which is why crypto's going up, why stocks are going up. But then why would you hold gold, right? If inflation's going away in the perfect world, which I don't think it will, but that's what the thought process is. I think that's why you're seeing near-term downside in gold. I think what the market will have to do is start to realize that inflation's not really going away. It may come down from 11 or 9% to 5 or 4%, but then it's going to be sticky for the next 10 years at 4 to 5%. And that eventually you're going to see an economy that weakens, and the Fed can't, like everyone's fooling themselves if they think the Fed can all of a sudden print trillions and trillions of dollars again in the next recession to get us out of it with inflation at 4 to 5%. Because guess what? Then you're going to see inflation at 15 or 20%. So that's going to be the period where the realization hits that, okay, inflation's here to stay, and the Fed can't do a lot about a recession, which means risk off is going to take hold again. One of my cases, again, for why the NASDAQ, S&P are still headed a lot lower. And while unfortunately, I think crypto may have that one more dump as well.
Yeah. I read something called the Bullwhip Effect, where it has to do with inflation, but at the same time, you can't do anything about it because of, I can't really explain it, to be honest with you. But yeah, there's a bullwhip effect apparently, where they have no choice. They will either the economy will suffer or inflation will go high, and whenever they try to fix one, the other one is just going to get worse and worse.
That's exactly what I think is going to happen. So the best way to do it is, let me use my hands here. So right now you have inflation high, unemployment low, right? And I'm trying to get this in the camera. But as inflation comes down, the economy, because they're tightening, unemployment's going to go up, right? And when you get unemployment high enough, they're going to say, oh my goodness, we now need to stimulate to bring down unemployment. And then this is going to go up. So it's going to be like this, back and forth, right? And they're going to it's like whack-a-mole, that game where you whack the thing popping out of the hole back, one over here, one over here, so yeah.
All right. So would you be buying gold right now or not?
Yes, I am still buying gold. I bought some GDX. I bought some Freeport McMoran. I bought more GLD. So I'm still, as long as the chart tells me it's okay, which it's still holding this 1680, 1675. I'm still a buyer of gold. Doesn't mean it's the only thing I own. I have some tech stocks right now. I have some crypto right now, but I think you have to be in some gold for diversification. Yeah. And I still think it, again, will be a great asset going forward.
I'm actually buying some gold coins on Friday. So
nice.
So let's go to the stocks now, and we're getting into cryptocurrency a little bit after, because I bought some stocks. I want you to tell me your opinion, if I did a good thing or not, or tell me your opinion in general. Like, what do you think? Let's have a look at the stock market.
All right, let's go to the S&P. We'll start with the S&P here. So here's your S&P chart, and basically you've had a nice beautiful bounce today. Really, over the last week or so, we're starting to trend up. One of the things to note here is we are coming into a little bit of resistance. This pivot top, we're almost there, right? So we're almost into that level. I think we're going to go higher than that. I think we fill this gap at least. And then you start talking about, you have a downsloping trend line here, which we're actually above short term. So that's a positive. So I do think the stock market has a little bit more upside to it. But again, I'm in a camp where right now this is a down move. This is an inside bar, right? So let me show you something else here. In fact, let me get rid of these lines. So I love parallels. Parallels are one of my favorite technical tools to use. And what I like to do is I like to connect two lows and then bring it up to the high. And this is, so basically what I'm thinking is I think the stock market goes up right here in the near term, which actually almost coincides perfectly with that gap fill. So that's going to be your resistance. Notice it's right around the 4,000 level on the S&P. So again, for me, I'm long the stock market generally. I did take some profits today. I took Netflix off ahead of earnings because I'm a little scared to hold it into earnings. Maybe I'll be wrong, but I made some money on it anyways. I took SC off the table, but I still am holding some stocks, thinking that we still have a little bit more upside here in the near term. Once we get up in this range, though, I may start to short the market.
You think it's going to get a lot lower, or are you looking at it as a double bottom?
No, I think at minimum, and this is just, to me, this is the most obvious culprit, is eventually we're going to this 3,400, 3,390 level, which is the pre-COVID highs. So I think that's at minimum what we achieved this year on the downside.
Okay. Let's talk about some stocks. Let me give you some picks real quick that I made today. Well, ironically, one was Netflix.
One of them, Netflix. Let's take a look.
I actually bought some Netflix, man.
So listen, Netflix, I don't think there's a lot of downside on earnings. Just one of the things that I've learned is that when you don't know for sure and you're up on something, for me, I just prefer to take the money and just wait and see. Like, it could go, honestly, I think Netflix, the expectations are so low. I mean, last quarter, they're like, oh, we're going to lose 2 million members or whatever. It's trading at like a 15 PE. That's a great PE for a stock like Netflix. It used to be like 200 back in the day. And I think that for the most part, the odds favor upside, but not enough for me to like feel confident, right? So I think I had like in my position, it was like $500,000, right? So I'm not ready to lose 20% of that if it dumps out. So for me, I just exited. You can see a little bit of resistance here, but ultimately, if it pulls back at all, I'm buying it again. And I think it's got upside.
Yeah, I bought it because I think it was oversold, completely oversold. Now I don't know if it's going to take 1 year or 5 years to go back up, but I go into it as a long-term play. I
like
feel
it.
like it's going to do well.
As a long-term play, I like it, especially when you have a gap all the way up at $350 and a gap window here. I mean, there's a lot of potential upside. Gaps generally are filled over time. So if your outlook is like 6 months, I think it's awesome.
Oh yeah, and there's another one. There's another gap further up. Look at that big one.
Yeah, I mean, this would just be incredible return right up here. Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. And the other one I'm looking at is Unity Software, which I bought. I'm not looking at it, but I bought that.
Yeah, I mean, what a drop on this from $200 all the way down to 35 and change. Now, basically on this one, the only thing I would say is this is your low. You just would want to see it hold that low. As long as it holds that low, I think you're good to go. Notice how you have a very clear defined channel here, right? So here's your gap fill, pivot high, pivot high, pivot high, and your lows right here. You could even make that into an upsloping trend line here to actually connect those lows. But that's the channel you're in. You need to see it go test the high and then break out, and then it's golden. But just, basically, if you're holding this, you just don't want to see it break this trend line to the downside or this low pivot down here.
Yeah, it was a pretty risk play, actually. But I wanted to get into NVIDIA. I decided to get into this one instead.
Nice.
The other one I got into is UiPath.
What's the symbol on that?
Path.
Let's take a look. Yeah, so I mean, again, this one's been making slightly higher lows, so that's good. Could be a little, I mean, basically same thing here. Just watch it, this trend line here. Pretty defined channel, I would say, right in this range. And again, you just want to see it hold this area here. As long as it does, it's got some nice upside. But again, it's probably not one I would be in just because of that pattern could be a little bearish. But for the most part, I mean, you're stuck inside of this range. It could easily trade to the high end of that range, which is, that's about a 20+% upside move.
And finally, Under Armour.
UA. Let me see.
Yep.
Let me see. I got some former trend lines here. Let me get rid of those. Yeah, so UA again, I mean, again, some of these stocks are just bludgeoned. The only thing I would be watchful of is that there's a possibility that you could trade to double bottom down here, but certainly short term it's oversold. I could see this thing trading up to $8.20 near term, maybe higher. But again, on the next market dip, we likely see a drop down to this 650, 675 area at double bottom. But that I mean, you're so close now. I wouldn't fault you for being long on this at this point. I mean, you could always add to the position if it gets down there.
I was looking for the underdog for Nike. And other than the charts, I also saw that Under Armour does a lot of gym things. They're in Survivor. They sponsor events. I'm like, you know what? These guys are doing something. Maybe there's something there long term. What kind of stocks are you looking at? What are your plays, if any?
Yeah, so I mean, right now, again, one of the things that I exited quite a bit of, and let me just go. I'm going to actually look on one of my other screens here. So I still have a little NET here. I'm in from $44.30 with members. So I'm up, very nicely. But basically, this gets kind of into this 55 level. I'm going to look to take profits on that one. Zoom, I have a long on Zoom as well. Zoom to me, again, same kind of charts that you're playing is what I love about Zoom here is that I love when you go back to 2019, you're basically at levels where you were trading in 2019. So there's just a ton of technical support here. Now, it's not to say that if the market dumps another 20%, Zoom's going to hold up. I mean, let's be honest, everything's going to go down if that happens. But those are some of the plays. Now, some of the other ones I am in, Freeport-McMoRan. All right, Freeport-McMoRan actually having a great day today, up to 4% today. I'm in from 25.62, so it's at 28 and change. And then one of my sleeper plays, which is kind of like your Netflix, is this one here, which is Warner Brothers. I kind of like this one. I like this pattern it's making down here. It's kind of getting up to test this resistance. And remember, Game of Thrones the next Game of Thrones is coming out in August, only about 3 weeks away. And I wouldn't be surprised if they gain a lot of subs going into that for that Game of Thrones debut. And that could give the stock a nice little boost up to this high here, which is around $16.50. So I mean, again, 14 to 16.5, nice little 10, 15% gain possibility.
Yeah, Warner Brothers is something I was looking at. I actually got into it and got back out, and I wanted to get back in. I don't know why. I think I made a mistake on because I buy stocks on eToro. So
Nice.
anyway, all right. So what else can we look at here? What about oil?
Oil. Let's take a look at US oil here. Yeah, oil's bouncing up. I think oil's going to be a short if it gets to about 107 to 111. Somewhere in this vicinity, I'm looking to pull the trigger on a short. You still have a high, a lower high here. You broke this upsloping trend line, so that would be resistance right there. So again, oil moving up, market risk on. People think maybe the economy's not in as much trouble. Maybe inflation's coming down. That's a positive right now for oil. I'm on the other camp. I think this will be a short-term factor that'll lead to another leg down on oil. I still have by the midterm elections, I think $85 to $75 a barrel.
Right. Do you think wouldn't the macros going on with the wars and everything affect oil as well, though?
Yeah, I mean, that's been the common theme of why it should be higher and at 150 or 200. I kind of look at it like, with higher price comes more people producing oil, right? We see oil, the amount of barrels being produced by various countries coming up. In addition, let's be fair, we know Russia's not being restricted. I mean, certain countries aren't buying their oil, but then they're just selling their oil to China and India at a discount anyways. So that oil is still getting on the market. And then the disruption in the economic system is putting Europe into a recession, which means there's less demand. So for me, all in all, sometimes wars can actually cause a decrease. I mean, initial spike because of fear, but then it ultimately, if it causes a recession, causes a decrease in oil price.
Yeah, especially if no one's using it. Yeah, people are not going shopping or anywhere around, or they're not buying. Right. They're not taking their cars for those big road trips.
Yeah.
Do you have any projections on the markets in general if things continue to go as they go now? Do you have any projections? Are you worried about anything? Are you looking at anything? Or
yeah, so I mean, I think the big thing we have to look for is the Fed meeting next week, right? I mean, whether they do 75 or 100 basis points, I don't think that matters anymore. The markets are already pricing in right around there. It's a matter of what they say. What does Jerome Powell say in his press conference? Does he say, hey, listen, we're going to take a pause now. We don't have another meeting for 2 months until September. And then, maybe we do a quarter basis point, but we have the midterm elections. We don't want to influence. I mean, if the market can get a sense that the hikes are over, but we're not going into a heavy, horrible recession, then that would be a bull case for the markets. If he still is very adamant about continuing to hike rates after a 75 or 100, then I think that's a little bit more of a concern for the markets. So I think that meeting is going to be big. I also think Apple earnings coming up in a couple of weeks, that's going to be huge because, again, Apple, biggest market cap stock. You have to think that their gauge on the economy, what are they seeing in terms of the economy? That's going to be big. I know they said yesterday they were going to slow hiring, but we haven't gotten their numbers. I want to see how many iPhones are selling. What are their projections? And I think that'll be a big gauge for the economy.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, let's look at the cryptocurrency market again real quick. And let's look at Ethereum. What did Ethereum do, Gareth?
Yeah, I mean, this is a beautiful move. I think you have to marvel the fact that it was at 1,000 6-7 days ago, and it hit a high of 1630. That's a 60% move. It is getting close to major resistance, though. So I'm still in this. But if we get close to this 1,700 level, I'm going to take profits, and I might even pull a short. I might even pull the trigger on a quick short trade. Granted, very quick. I'm not, I'll look for 200-300 downside kind of thing and just grab that money and run. But that is a major resistance. I would be very surprised if Ethereum blew right through 1,700 without any sort of pullback.
Nice. What do you think is, what about Ethereum versus Bitcoin and not USD?
Yeah, I mean, I think for the most part, and again, I can do a little comparison here. I think for the most part, Ethereum is running first. We've seen that. Let me bring up Bitcoin in comparison here and put the chart on. But basically, I think that Bitcoin will start to get more momentum in it and probably catch up, or maybe not catch up because Ethereum fell more than Bitcoin, but at least get up to that level. Like if you look at where Ethereum is, it's very, very close to its target of 1700.
Mhm.
Bitcoin still has a little ways to go. So if we bring up the Bitcoin chart here, Bitcoin can still technically maybe even get as high as this 28,000 marker. So I think Bitcoin probably takes the lead here out, and you'll see more money flowing in there. So I think if I had to choose one to be in right now, now I'm in both right now in the near term, but I would choose Bitcoin to stick with. And if I had to take profits on one, I'd take profits on Ethereum. I mean, 60% move is just an epic move with pretty much no pullback.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. What about other altcoins? Are you looking at any yourself before I give you some to look at?
Yeah, so I mean, I still think Polkadot is an interesting one. You still have upside on Polkadot to maybe $8.50. Granted, that's only about 60 cents away, but that one's an interesting one. Cardano's trying to break out here. Cardano maybe has the most potential upside if it gets its mojo to this kind of 64, 65 cent level up here. Again, you have a little pivot right here it's dealing with, and a few more pivots around 53, 54 cents. But I would say that one's an interesting one as well. But yeah, if you want me to look at one, feel free to let me know. Yeah.
Well, I won't hear the end of it if you don't look at XRP.
XRP, you got it. Let's take a look. So XRP is coming right up into a little resistance level here. This is going to be a big test for it, right? So if we look at this had a wedge pattern. It broke out of the wedge pattern. Let me just extend that line down so you guys can clearly see. But basically, it's above that level. The next big level is this 38.25 cent level, which is this low right across here. So if it can get through that, then you may have upside to about 45, 46 cents as your next resistance level right up here.
Gotcha.
But this 38 cents area, that's going to be a big level on this.
All right. Now, is there a way for you to look at HEX for my Hexicans out there? They keep on telling me about HEX. They would love to see you do HEX.
Yeah, so you can see I had a trend line on here, which was a little support line on HEX. Nice. We have a longer term trend line sloping down there. That would be kind of your maximum upside. We talked about that same sort of trend line on Bitcoin. But basically on HEX, right now it's holding support. It's getting a nice little pop. This is your short-term target, this little pivot high right here around 5.6 cents. That would be your near-term resistance. If it gets through that, then you start playing around with, some of these higher levels here, maybe a move up to this level. But right now, I would look at that 5.5 cent, 5.6 cent level as resistance.
Nice. Now, if the stock market surprises us and actually goes up higher than expected, would it be fair to say that all these cryptocurrencies are just going to blow out?
That they would go higher? Yes.
Oh,
yeah. Basically, especially if the NASDAQ continues up. So here's the QQQ chart. Qs are getting close to a gap fill, so we got to respect that. But you're definitely, if the Qs can break through this gap fill, you have a leg all the way up to $315 on the QQQ, which would be another $15 past this gap fill, about 5%. I would think that 5% in the NASDAQ would equate to at minimum 10% in cryptos, maybe even more. Usually there's at least a 2-to-1, maybe 3-to-1 variance in terms of their moves. So yeah, I mean, there's no doubt about it. If it's a risk on atmosphere, if everyone gets jovial and says, hey, listen, we're in a great situation here, everything's going to be okay with the economy, buy, cryptos absolutely will follow suit.
All right. And one last question. Where do you see, what time length do you see the stock market right now as is remaining in a bullish move? What is your range? Is it a couple of weeks? Is it a month? Is it less?
Yeah, I'm in the camp that we just have a couple weeks left of bullishness before the next move to the downside. So again, keep in mind we're in the summer months. They call it the summer doldrums in the stock market. So I think that's important to recognize. Volume is very light. That tends to favor the upside. I think the fact that you're seeing crypto moving is getting people really excited. They're like, all right, we're back to the good old days of 2021. But again, my guess is by mid-August to late August, you start to see us starting to come back in a little bit. Yeah. And again, keep in mind, we're going to be watching inflation numbers, but more importantly, so inflation, I do think comes down. It's watching these economic numbers. How fast is the economy slowing? And if you get some really nasty economic numbers, the markets are going to start to freak out about a recession and how bad it could be. And then what can the Fed really do? I mean, what if inflation still only pulled back to 6% and we're in a recession? The Fed can't print money. And that's going to be the ticket to the next leg lower in the markets, in my opinion.
Yeah. Gareth, thank you so much, man. Thank you for this. It's exciting times. Let's see how it plays out. I'm really excited. And you know what? Even if it goes down, man, it's time to buy. People
That's what it
don't
is.
understand. This is the time where you don't even need to know how to trade that well. If you just have an investor's mentality and just hold on a little bit, it could be time to start buying.
The quality is important in a bear market, right? You want to make sure it's things that survive. I come from a stock market background. In bear markets, when I was young, I would always buy these small caps that were like, you know, they'd go from like $1 to 2 cents, and I'd be like, oh, this is the best. And then that company would go out of business, and I'm like, well, crap, I lost out. So quality, yes, absolutely quality. Buying opportunities when things are getting smoked.
Thank you so much, Gareth. I'll see you again in a couple of weeks, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you, buddy.
Take care. Bye-bye.